Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be doing a cleaning and lubrication of this kit-bashed Canadian National locomotive. This is a bit of a peculiar locomotive, and I got it in a bit of a peculiar way. Basically, when I was just starting up model railroading, it was way back in like 2007, my parents took me to a model train store in the area. I've done a few videos on it, you guys may know it, and it's Larkspur Line in Marrickville. And the first year we went there, me and my dad both saw this locomotive in the display case, and we were both kind of blown away by it. It was just a cool looking engine, it had a bit of weathering on it. It was just a really interesting locomotive. And every year we went there, after 2007, it was just there year after year after year, and we were amazed that no one had bought this thing. It was just such a cool engine. You'd think somebody would want to pick it up. So anyways, it was one day, cold day in 2013, I think it was about March of 2013, and there we were again, me and my dad looking in the display case at it, and my dad just said, "We're getting this thing." So without even thinking about it, we just went and bought it, and the guy who runs the shop there told us all about it, and he said that basically this locomotive was kit-bashed by somebody who was very interested in having this very particular model of locomotive. They didn't exist when this was made. I don't know when it was made, but apparently it didn't exist, and he was so desperate to have one that he built one himself. So this is a kit-bashed locomotive. Now, the reason I want to do work on it is because we saw this thing in the display case all the way back in 2007. I bought it in 2013. And it's never had an oil change in any of the time I've owned it, and I'm sure it was never, I'm confident that when it was brought to the shop, it was never given fresh oil. I don't even know when it turned up at the shop, so there's a very good chance this locomotive has gone maybe 15 or more years without having fresh oil put in it, and it runs really good, but a locomotive with good oil is always going to run better, and it's always going to last a lot longer. And since I like this locomotive so much and it's so special, I think it deserves some fresh oil. Now, I'm not entirely sure how we're going to take this locomotive apart because it is kit-bashed, but there's a whole bunch of screws on the bottom, so I have a feeling if we kind of just go about unscrewing some stuff, it will start to come apart, and we can give this thing a very good clean and lubrication. So let's get to work. Alright, so we're going to start off with this flatheads. There are two screws here on the bottom. It says made in Yugoslavia. Probably where the Yugo came from. Anyway, this is a locomotive that I believe the body came off an RSO, so I guess we'll just try to kind of take it apart as if it was an RSO. I'm not sure if we're going to run into any problems. I've already run into one. This flatheads is not fine enough. Okay, I think if I just put a little more force, then we can get those screws to come out. Yeah, this flatheads does, if you kind of put a bit of pressure, it will kind of sink in, but and there comes off the bottom plate, and that just reveals a weight, so fail, I guess. We've got more screws. Alright, so we're now going to try with our second, I believe this is called a Phillips head there. We're going to unscrew that screw, and then I assume there's another one on the other side. Well, there isn't actually. Okay, I hope that screw isn't holding anything in. Okay, I'm now just going to try kind of prying this out. Oh, it's starting to kind of open up. Doesn't want to let go. Okay, the coupler's in there. Okay, we definitely need to remove the coupler on this particular unit. It's just too integrated with the cow catcher. So out it comes. Yeah, something kind of interesting to think about is that this might be the first time this engine's been opened in more than 15 years. It could be 20 years, I don't know. I don't know when this thing was made. I'm sure somebody who knows when these were not being made might know. This number on the side makes me curious, though. Maybe somebody didn't know what number to make it and decided to make it the year of manufacture. In which case, this thing's been on the planet In which case, this thing's been on the planet for as many years as I have, so that's interesting. So there is a screw on that side. Oh boy. Well, this is a very interesting engine. Check this out, guys. We've got an Athearn motor with two possibly Athearn flywheels, and then first of all, they've glued this down with some sort of an epoxy. I don't know what that is. But the transmission is from RSO engines. This is so cool. This really is a kit-bashed engine. Somebody didn't like the RSO motor, so they decided, let's put an Athearn 5-pole in it. That is awesome. And then they've done the soldering job. This would be a very easy engine, I think, to upgrade to DCC as well, because I could take the wires that are coming down from the trucks here, I could wire them together, and then wire a decoder up and have the outputted decoder go here and here. So if ever I wanted to in the future, that is always an option. Now, the first thing I see, very dirty commutator. So that's something that needs to be attended to at some point. But the thing I'm more interested in getting to is figuring out if these trucks, what the kind of condition of them's like, because I have a feeling there's at least a bit of dust and hair in them. I don't know. This is part of the reason I really like buying secondhand stuff. Like, stuff you buy new, it's cool, but you're not gonna find things like this, you know, where it's been modded. Like, this was a labor of love. Somebody really, you know, they wanted a very specific engine, and they put a lot of effort into building one, and, you know, here it is. Like, this thing runs it runs like a clock already. I just think that, you know, after so many years, it's bound to need fresh oil. Okay, so there we go. That's coming out there. And I assume we can pry that down there and get the transmission to come out. There we go. I could disconnect these wires. I might just do that. But, well, we'll see if I can kind of just open it up. I'd prefer not to, but if it's going to make it harder, then what's the point? Okay, so I'm going to try just kind of putting a flatheads there, maybe? I don't know. Okay, I think I've got it. I think if we go at it from this side. Nope, didn't like that. Oh no, actually that did it. Alright. Well, there's the inside, and I can see some dust and hair in there. So that needs to be attended to. These contacts are quite dirty. Yeah, it needs a little work. Alright, so we got the transmission all apart. It took a little more effort than I thought. There was just a couple of clips that were sort of stiff. But here it all is. It's actually all quite good. There's a little bit of dust and hair here and there, but nothing too bad. There's a tiny bit of grease, but this is one of the few times I've seen where somebody actually put the right amount of oil. They didn't over-lubricate this engine, and it's like, if it's somebody that's skilled enough to kit bash a locomotive, they're probably skilled enough to know not to over-lubricate an engine, and they certainly put the right amount. So as a result, that's probably why it's running so good today. There wasn't a lot of old oil that got in the way of all the parts moving, so that's good. So all we need to do is put fresh oil in it and clean out the old oil, and should be running better than it was before. So to clean out the old oil, we're just going to use my favorite cleaning product, rubbing alcohol. And then we'll just get some Q-tips here. And just clean away the old oil. Notice too, it's a residue of grease, so the person also put the right type of lubricant on the worm gear there, so that's something that I appreciate. I'll tell you, this engine was definitely treated with care. The inside's already spotless. There's just little drops here and there of the old, I mean, you can kind of see there's just a bit of old lubricant, but again, all reasonable amounts. Alright, so we got all the wheels and contacts cleaned on this truck. Now we just need to do it on the other one, and then we can start re-lubricating our locomotive. Alright, back truck, well, kind of mostly assembled. assembled. Now we can start putting this one back together. Figured I'll just do this one because this one's a bit more complicated. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but this might have got broken at some point, and I think somebody glued it back together, and I just wanted to take my time, taking it all apart. And, sorry, I've just realized I actually didn't quite clean out all the oil there. I think I forgot this part. Oh well. And there we go. Now to start putting this whole thing back together, I guess we'll start with the gears, which, to be honest with you guys, I don't really know which way these are supposed to go. I guess I'll just put that one in there, flip it around if it doesn't work. Oil that one, this one from the other side, because it does, it's like a hole through the thingamajig there. Yeah, there we go. I got that all back together. So let's put a little less than a drop. And now this piece is a little more interesting. First of all, before we do anything, I'm just going to put some oil on each of the bearings. And this is Labelle 102. It's a lighter oil. And for things like gears, you just want really light oil. And now that we've got that all oiled, we'll put it in the case here. It's already quite smooth, but we're going to make a special mixture that will make the worm gear almost frictionless. And the mixture is, of course, the famous grease and oil mixture. And what we're just going to do is put a nice big blob of grease, and we're going to oil it down a little bit. You want there for the worm gear to be a decent amount of grease, but if you just oil it down, it will thin it out and just make the viscosity a little thinner, which will reduce friction on the worm gear. Now, I didn't understand this when I was more of a beginner, because I was kind of like, lighter oil flows better, so you'd think it would be best for lubricating just about everything. Why would you want to use a thick lubricant? The reason is that when you have an area where there was a lot of friction, the thinner oil just does not get the job done. It's too thin to deal with the friction. So when basically when there's more friction, you want a thicker oil, because it will just be able to handle it a little bit better. And then you want to use the thinner oil for lower friction things like pivots. And if you follow these rules, you should wind up with a very well-running locomotive. I'm going to put the wheels back in, and you want to lubricate each of the wheel bearings, and you just want a very thin layer of oil. It's basically like a slick. And again, since it's a lower friction area, you can put a very thin oil, and it will be fine. Let's put that there, that there. It should be good. We're now going to work on cleaning up the commutator, which is this metal piece right here. And to do this, we're just going to use our famous alcohol with a Q-tip, and just want to kind of turn it and just give it a little scrub. Like, you just kind of want to be doing that. Quite a bit of dirt comes off. And around each of the little motor bearings here, we'll put a little bit of oil. And once again, a light oil at that. Doesn't need much. Let's turn it a few times, get the oil to mix in. And it will kind of just naturally mix in once you get it running. Alright, so we've now got the engine re-lubricated, we've got all the contacts cleaned, we've got the motor all cleaned up and lubricated. So I think we can put this thing back together and try running her on the track. So we're going to put this piece on right here. Alright, get those couplers in and it'll be ready to run. Alright, well we've got that front coupler back in, so now there's only one thing left to do, which is to test run this unit. Let's take it to the track. Well, it's not flawless, but pretty strong runner, as you can see. Well, folks, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I think at some point I might buy this thing some new RSO parts, and the reason I say that is just because the plastic seems to be brittle. A few of those clips kind of cracked a bit. They're still holding, but they just don't seem to be perfect, so at some point I'll upgrade those, but luckily they shouldn't be too hard to come by, so at some point that will be a project for this engine. But at the moment, it's a good runner, and I like it just as much as I always have. Before I finish off the video, I want to ask you guys a question, and the question is, what do you think of the sound quality in this video? I'm sure some of you guys have noticed a difference, and that's because I'm actually using a microphone. This is like a Beats headphone microphone, because a lot of people have been saying that the audio in my videos is not so good, and I can't say I disagree with them. So let me know if you like this more or less. If it's not good, I'll search for a new solution, but if it is good, I'll start doing this. So, thanks for watching, everyone.